let us go to the fallout from the vote against the voice. On Saturday, that massive vote against dividing Australians by race. Now, one thing that vote did, 61% said no, right? This is big, is explode the farce of these endless welcome to country ceremonies. You know, welcoming Australians to their own country as if they were strangers, as if they needed that invitation. Now, one of the architects of the voice, Marsha Langton, actually promised she would never do a welcome to country for the rest of us out of disgust if we voted no, which we did. On Sunday, an Aboriginal elder actually pulled out of doing the welcome to country in Brisbane for the netball game between New Zealand and Australia. But here's the thing. No welcome, but no one went home. There was no welcome at that game, but it went ahead anyway, as if no one really did need welcoming after all, because it is all a farce. But now this, Katrina Power, she identifies as Aboriginal, as an elder even, and she was hired by South Australia's Department of Industry, Innovation and Science to do a welcome at a breakfast for 400 people. Except what they got for their money after the voice vote was not a welcome really at all. Power told the guests she deserved more applause than they were giving her. She complained that most there, given the voice results, didn't want her to have a voice. And she also called for King Charles to be dethroned and claimed she could understand what it was like for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. You know, I'm getting really alarmed by the race activists, and there are several now, who are likening the war there to supposed race war here. What the hell are they doing? This is playing with fire. But the point here is this. Power clearly wasn't welcoming the people there at this supposed welcome for country ceremony. Yet again, the function went on. Not one of even the Labor politicians there went home. So what is this welcome really for? It's offensive. It seems at times not even meant. It's divisive. But in the end, no one really needs that invitation that's welcome to country. They will stay. So get rid of it. It's just for show. Joining me is Nationals frontbencher Barnaby Joyce, the former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby Joyce, thanks for your time. Welcome to country ceremonies. Get rid of them?
Well, I believe, as Jacinto, who is from Alice Springs and an Aboriginal lady, says they're overdone. I think there's certain areas where they're completely appropriate. And in my area, when Lenny Waters, who says it in language, Yam Malia, that's, hello, you people, and Yene Biambirai, which is basically walk with God. No one has a problem with that. But when the Qantas plane lands and against probably their wishes, a white lady at the front of the plane says in English that they're going to welcome you home to Tamworth, why? You don't have to welcome me home. I am home. And, especially from people with serve with the Defence Forces as Veteran Affairs Ministers, they've proven their love for their country. They sign their name on the dotted line, both white, both non-white, both Aboriginal, to be shot at by the people who don't like our country. And you don't need to welcome them home. They're at their home. This is their nation. And so I think it's a case of picking your time, picking your place, and all locals know where it's appropriate, and when it's appropriate, it's great. But when it's just, it's just tick a box, no, it's too much.
Yeah, in the end, you get people not even believing they need a welcome to stay. This is the whole thing too. The whole thing's Anyway, but to a bigger lesson from the no vote last Saturday, Barnaby Joyce, when Australians finally got a chance, they said no to this kind of race, well, the whole racist division, particularly the voice. But we still have state oppositions saying yes to state treaties. Now, it's true, the Queensland LNP leader, David Crisafulli, has just admitted he was wrong about that. He's changed his mind. He's listened to the result of the voice referendum. But the South Australian Liberals still back a treaty. So do the Victorian Liberals, who even backed a state voice, the First Peoples Assembly. What should they all do now?
Well, they should listen. Isn't this a democracy? I mean, well, do you think that was like, apart from the fact that it cost over $400 million, what are you going to take away from the weekend? Apart from it was a hubristic, divisive debacle that started with the Prime Minister having an African-American basketball player called Shaquille O'Neal sort of announce the start of a referendum. That why they got Patty Mills, I have no idea. And then had it supported by the banks and the supermarkets in a cost of living crisis. And then finished with a referendum that should have had two questions, had one. This thing was a complete and utter botch. And I know the Prime Minister gets very upset with me when I say that. Prime Minister, you botched it. It was a disaster. But if there's one thing you can take away from it is the view of the Australian people. And when other people sort of say, oh, well, you know, of course we're wiser than them. And we've actually had that inferred by Walid Ali on the other network, on the 10 network, saying basically the people who voted no is because they're dumb. See, we're all dumb. We're not enlightened. And, well, I don't know about that, but maybe we're not enlightened enough for some. But we've expressed our views, and our views should be respected. So if you're going to go straight down the path that was voted against, well, you don't respect democracy.
Absolutely correct. But, you know, it seemed to me it was a vote against this whole tribalist agenda that's represented by things to me like welcome to country, the three flags we now fly, two tribal ones, the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander and the national one, all that kind of stuff. I would have thought the mayhem in the Middle East shows this is poison, Barnaby Joyce, absolutely. And we should turn our back on all this stuff, you know, calling our capital cities now by new Aboriginal names like the ABC does, referring to Aborigines as First Nations people, which is a political term implying rival nations in the same land. Surely it's a wider cultural issue than just the voice.
Well, I think that whether they liked it or not, the referendum debate inspired a lot of people to have a sort of a cathartic moment where they said, a lot of this stuff has got under my skin. It's really annoyed me. I've always believed it was polite not to say anything about it. But now you're giving me the opportunity to say something about it. I'm going to have my say. And, you know, it's, as I said, it's going right back to the start. There's times where things are appropriate and we respect them. In fact, we love them. And there are times where things that are just manifestly tick a box, perfunctory, and people do get a sense that you're sort of like enforcing it on people. And the classic one is a white person at the front of a Qantas plane doing welcome to country in English when they don't live to the place where we're going home. We don't need to be welcomed home. Take it for granted. We belong here. We've served our nation. We love the country, would die for the country. You don't need to welcome us to the country we would die for. And things move on as they always do. The time where people are living here and will serve here is from here into the future. And, you know, I think that needs to be respected as well. And maybe this referendum has given people a time not to sort of completely clean the slate and say, well, we'll never have any of that ever again, but to say, let's be a little bit more discerning about this and remember that if you enforce something on people against their wishes, it doesn't endear that issue to them. Gets their back up and makes them
That's clear, but I would have also thought it's a time of unity. Yeah, it's a time, I think, to stress unity.
I think Andrew, we can. Yeah. I think, Andrew, we can get unity, and we will want unity, but it's not that one side completely controls the agenda on this. Unity in its very nature means you accept the pieces that come from both sides.
I've got that.
And you don't get all
I've got to go, Barnaby. I've got someone waiting for me from Israel. Barnaby Joyce, thank you so much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it.